Menstrual cups should not be painful. They shouldn't be painful when you insert them, they should not be painful during wear, and they shouldn't be painful to remove. Let's talk about some causes of pain and how we can fix those when using a menstrual cup. Hi everyone, my name is Kim Rosas and welcome to Period Nirvana, which is my home for all things reusable menstrual cup and menstrual disc information. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe if you're into that sort of thing. I also run a retail store called Period.shop, which has the largest selection of reusable products like menstrual cups and discs and other things that go along with those, and that's a great place to shop if you're in the US. So make sure to check that out. I'll leave links for everything we talk about in the video in the description. Now to talk about what you're here for, and that is painful menstrual cups. They should not be painful, period. A lot of times people assume menstrual cups will be painful because they are larger than tampons. So inserting something that's larger than a tampon already looks daunting and like it might hurt. And this is really just simply not the case. It shouldn't hurt. On top of that, depending on your age and your experience, a menstrual cup in all of their forms are typically no larger than other things that you might be inserting into your body. So, that is one of those myths that I want to dispel right now. For menstrual cup pain, there are different types. So let's walk through each of those and see if we can find a solution. Now, I'm not promising that I have a solution that's going to make menstrual cups work for you if you're experiencing pain. Out of the gate, I want to say that there are some people that menstrual cups aren't going to work for. That's pretty rare. Especially when it comes to the feeling of using a menstrual cup versus the ability to dexterously or access for using a menstrual cup. But I did want to say that because at some point, if something's causing you pain and you've tried everything, it's time to throw in the towel and try something like period underwear or pads, or perhaps a menstrual disc, depending on the kind of pain that you're experiencing. So let's talk about insertion pain first. Typically, the pain associated with inserting a menstrual cup is related to dryness and difficulties related to lubrication. So take a little bit of lubricant, a little bit really goes a long way, and apply it to the rim of your menstrual cup, fold it, and insert. On top of using lubricant, you want to look for the smallest menstrual cup fold you can find if it feels like the size of the cup is too large and the size of the menstrual cup is contributing to the pain. The C fold is a very popular fold, but it has a wider diameter. I like to point first-time users to the punch-down fold, which is also very easy. You just push the rim of the cup down towards the base, squeeze, and you have a nice narrow point of insertion, and you also have a place to hold the cup. However, this does tend to make the base a little bit wider. If that's still a problem for you, there is a fold called the labia fold. The labia fold is much easier to demonstrate and do on a softer cup versus a firm cup. But essentially you take the rim, pinch, push it into the body of the cup and squeeze. And this makes the entire menstrual cup body slimmer, including the tip. And the bonus is that it does look like a labia, so that's pretty fun. Reducing the overall diameter of your cup, adding lubricant, those things are going to make insertion easier. And here's a tip from someone who's very now experienced with menstrual cups, but who was very not experienced the first time. No one's experienced when they try a menstrual cup. I wish someone had told me that I didn't have to remove the cup fully if, let's say, the cup opened too soon inside me. It did this, and it was still very low in the vaginal canal. I wish someone had told me, hey, just kind of push it up to be higher instead of taking it out and refolding it and putting it in. And then it opened too soon. And then I took it out, I refolded it, and I put it back in. And I did that probably 6 or 7 times my first day using a menstrual cup. And what happened to me is that I got very sore. I was in pain. And it was not a great first impression for menstrual cups. And I should have probably just taken a break, or I should have, just pushed it up. But I didn't know you could do that. I thought I would have to have it open completely high instead of low. Another thing that can cause pain during insertion is if you have something called vaginismus. I will remind people I'm not a doctor, but I talk to a lot of people who have vaginismus and a lot of people who tell me that inserting their cup is impossible or painful, and they don't know that they have vaginismus, and they go to a care provider and are diagnosed with it. If you've ever tried inserting a tampon or a menstrual cup and it is completely impossible to insert. It feels like it won't go in. Everything is too tight and it is extremely painful. This could be a sign that you have vaginismus, and it's that your muscles are tightening and contracting around the cup in response to you inserting something into the body. The causes of vaginismus are completely different for each person who has it. It could be a physical response, or it could be an emotional response to trauma you have experienced, perhaps trauma you don't even remember. And so those are things that you want to talk to not only a doctor about, but potentially also a therapist. There are pelvic floor therapists. There are dilators that can help you get through vaginismus. And there are people who, through different treatment plans, whether it's dilation or therapy, find a way to eventually use internal products. We're just talking about products. We're not talking about, physical relationships. But, it's certainly worth treatment for all of those reasons. This is something that you may not be able to use a menstrual cup if you have that, because it is going to be painful, and the physical barrier to inserting it is impossible. So that is something you might want to go ahead and look at period underwear or cloth pads for until you feel ready and comfortable after treatment to use a menstrual cup. Now let's talk about pain during wear. Let's say you've inserted your menstrual cup and that part went great, but either immediately after insertion or during wear over time, you experience some form of pain. Now, this pain might just be a dull ache. It might be a sharp pain. It might be not even really pain, but just like a general discomfort. And those all point to possible signs of what's causing it. Let's talk first about just kind of general achiness or pain. That could be a sign that your menstrual cup is too firm for you. While you have a menstrual cup in, the firmness does affect how it feels inside of you for some people. A firmer cup is applying a pressure all around when it's open against the body. And because it sits in the vaginal canal, it is surrounded by other things in your body, most notably the urethra and the bladder and the rectum. So if you're feeling pressure or pain or any general feeling of discomfort from wearing a menstrual cup, it might be that it's just too firm for you, and a softer cup would be a good option. Cups with a softer firmness would include the Salt Soft, the Lena Sensitive. There are also cups that are made from TPE that go in firmer, but they warm with your body's temperature. Those wear like a softer cup. That would include the Hello Cup line and their Hello Cup Low Cervix. Another option would be a reusable menstrual disc, because it sits in a different part of the body. It doesn't apply the same pressure throughout like a cup, because it's a whole cup shape. And if it applies any pressure, it's a very narrow footprint, but most of the time it doesn't. I hear often that menstrual cup users who experience bladder pressure or general discomfort from a firmer cup switch to a menstrual disc, and that did in fact relieve that feeling they were feeling from the cup. There's another type of internal pain that you might be feeling that is related to the cervix. If you put in a certain size and diameter of menstrual cup and you insert during the day, it might just kind of walk up if it has the space and meet the cervix, and in some cases it may actually suction to the cervix. This often only happens if you have a smaller diameter cup, because the small diameter can kind of latch onto the end of the cervix and giving it a nice little kiss, and that will cause pretty intense and severe, sharp, cramping pains. If you believe this is what's happening to you, and let me tell you, I've had it happen, and it is probably the most uncomfortable experience I've ever had with a menstrual cup, and it's happened probably with 3 different cup varieties. It happens either because the cup opening is small, but if you couple a narrow diameter opening with a cup that doesn't have suction holes, like a BeFree or a Lily cup or a Marula cup or a FemiCycle, that is even a more intense reaction, and it makes it hard to remove. You want to look for cups that have a wider diameter than the cup you're currently using, so that even if it travels up towards the cervix and goes around it, it's not going to interfere and cause a suction and a seal that then creates those cramps. Once again, I'm also going to recommend switching to a menstrual disc, because those are completely suction free. So unless you have a really tilted cervix that kind of points towards the back wall and hits it, that you can't get a disc under, then that's going to be another option that's going to solve the cervix cramping, intense pain issue. Probably the most common pain that I hear about from menstrual cups is pain associated with the stem rubbing the body in some way during wear. And this happens because the stem usually has some, it's thinner, and because during wear the cup can shift and angle, it happens very often, then that stem rubs the body. Assuming you have no issues reaching the base of the cup in terms of removing your menstrual cup, you can just trim the stem down to be short enough that it's not touching or rubbing during wear. But I actually find that trimming it to be a very short nub causes even more pain, because then that nub really kind of pokes and hits at your skin. As long as you can reach the base of your cup, I would just simply completely chop off the stem using some very small nail scissors, and then you can even take a nail file and smooth that base down so that where you cut it is completely void of all kinds of corners and edges. A lot of experienced cup users, assuming they don't have a high cervix, most of those end up trimming their stem off at some point completely. I am one of those. I even mentally can't focus with a cup in when I have a stem because I feel like it's there and I just know it's going to rub, even though it might be completely comfortable for me. So there is a mental aspect to this as well in my case. And finally, we're going to talk about pain on removal. Like I said, menstrual cups shouldn't hurt going in, during wear, or coming out. The right cup for you is going to be completely comfortable and you're going to forget it's there. During removal, it's no different. It shouldn't hurt. So what you want to pinpoint is, why is it hurting? In most cases, when you're removing the menstrual cup, the pain is either because you didn't break the suction and so you feel like a crampiness or a discomfort because it's tugging and it's sealed. Don't do that. When removing your menstrual cup, you always want to break the seal. That is so important. So make sure you get the cup where you can reach it by wiggling the stem down until the base is very close where you can pinch. Pinch the base, pull straight down, and done. Now, in some cases, you may be thinking, okay, well, it still hurts and I pinched it and whatever. If you're doing all of that correctly and it still hurts, it might be that the actual diameter of the cup is painful at removal. And that makes sense, right? We fold them to put them in, but we don't fold them to take them out. So one trick is to remove it diagonally. So during removal, you pinch, break the seal, and then you wiggle it down and you tilt one side until it's basically an oval and remove. This reduces the overall size and can help when you're removing it so that it's not this massive cup. The size is lessened. And that also goes to the kind of cup you're using. Firmer cups are applying pressure as they're exiting your body, just as they were in your body. Softer cups are going to give more. The vaginal muscles and the vaginal tissue that are compressing it are going to be able to compress it because it's softer. So if you do all the tricks and it still hurts, a softer cup might be another better option for you. You can also kind of fold it while you're removing it. This is obviously the messiest way to do it, by completely folding it and pulling out. But if that is how it is possible for you to use a cup and you don't mind the mess, go ahead and fold it. And you can try doing that in the shower for the least messiest removal. And of course, if you're new to cups, my tip is always to remove your cup or disc for the first time in the shower. Another thing that can cause pain during removal is simply when you're new, you are potentially stressed out about the mess or stressed out about it not coming out. Mentally, that can have an effect on your body. You will tense up. And if you tense your vaginal muscles while you're removing, you're fighting the cup on the whole way out, and that can be painful. So another way to stop painful menstrual cup removals is to just simply relax. Relaxing is going to help all of that go smoother. And I know that's hard when you're new, but trust me, it's going to come out. It's not going to be stuck. If you have any difficulties, just give it a break. Don't do something over and over so much that you cause yourself pain, either inserting or removal. That is going to make whatever you're going through even worse. If you're having any problems, I would definitely suggest joining the Period Nirvana community on Facebook. I'll link that in the video description. It's a peer support group for menstrual cup users. So you can go in there and post if you're having other things that I've completely left off of this list that, it didn't occur to me or I completely forgot about. It happens. And you can ask for help. There are other painful things associated with menstrual cups that come from having more painful periods that make you more, more sensitive to these products. If you have endometriosis or PCOS or fibroids, having more painful periods can make whatever product you're using, exaggerate the pain that's happening. Softer cups or softer discs are always a good option. Menstrual cups or discs are going to hold more than tampons or pads. So there's definitely a benefit to switching to one of those products when you have a condition that causes heavy periods. It's just about finding the right product combination that not only meets the capacity needs, but also feels good. If you are looking for a less painful cup experience or disc experience and you haven't taken the quiz on Period Nirvana, I would also look into that because the questions there are also geared towards experienced cup users. They're going to ask about pain or difficulty removing, and it's going to guide you to a potential match that you may not even have heard of. So experienced cup users still get something out of the quiz. And if you're new to cups, start with the quiz and see what is recommended and do some research. It's not going to be the end-all be-all in terms of pointing out 100% the right menstrual cup or disc for you, but it certainly has a great reputation for doing so. I don't want to call it perfect because it's not perfect, but it is going to help a lot of you find the right menstrual cup or disc for you. I think that's it. We covered quite a lot. I didn't think this was going to be such a long video, but it's one of the questions I get asked all the time is, why does my menstrual cup hurt, or why does it hurt to remove my cup? So this is something I'll probably be pointing people to for a long time. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe. You can also find me all across social media. I am at Period Nirvana on Instagram, at Period Nirvana on TikTok, where I do educational videos all the time, just about every day, and also on Facebook, in the Facebook community, Period Nirvana community. Thanks so much for being here, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye. What that basically means is that, I don't know. Find me on Instagram at, oh, hell.